This week is dedicated to you history nuts out there, and you Anglophiles, because we're talking about Niall Ferguson's Empire, the rise and decline of the British Empire, and the lessons for global power. If that sounds like a nerdy good old time, then come along. Welcome to Matt Reviews Books. This is a book review channel dedicated to older books. Books that were bestsellers in their own right, but are no longer. They've fallen off the charts. Nobody knows about them or hears about them. You might find them in the used bookstore. You might find them, like me, in your classes, your college classes, as required reading, which is where I found many of my books, and I enjoy them greatly. In fact, Empire is one of them. There we are. Empire is one of them that I have read a couple of times since I have left the formal ivory tower of academia. Let's get on with it, Let's just move on to the meat and potatoes. Or, in the context this week, let's get on to our gin and tonic. Because if there is one drink that the British Empire gave to the world, it's the gin and tonic. So, let's move to Synopsis. The synopsis this week is basically going to be, as much as I can do, in just a couple minutes, a encapsulation of British history. Because that's what this is all about. It's all about British history. Before there was a Great Britain, it was just England. Before 1707, there was no Great Britain. It was just England. It just started off as England. And England, if you look at a map, England is not very big. It shares an island, a relatively small island, with two other countries, which would be Wales and Scotland. And this is what Ferguson does. He says, let's start off, let's look at the beginning, and let's take Henry Morgan. Yes, Henry Morgan, Captain Morgan. He was more than just a rum. And figure out where you go from there. And colonial Americas would eventually mean that England and the British would rule all the oceans and have a presence on all the continents. So we have this movement, this evolution of a tiny country becoming a bigger country, and eventually becoming empire. And he addresses how a tiny country like England and then Great Britain can take over a country like India, which was huge. You look at a map, there's no comparison. At the end, it sort of falls apart. It dissolves. And yeah, we had 2 world wars, and those were big deals. Those interrupted a lot. Long and the short of it is, everything we look at around us on the globe has in some way been a result of British Empire. Which means, let's move on to thoughts. You know what? This is a nonfiction book. He has a great narrative style, and he brings up he addresses a huge subject in a reasonably not dry way. It's a really nice. It's a good read. It's a fun read. Some of it's just ideas. How do these ideas get translated? As a history, I really enjoy being able to go in and read something that's engaging. I would say some of the lessons that he pulls from the rise and decline of the British Empire, I think it gets a little bit too preachy. I just am looking for a good read. And it's really helpful that it has a lot of really good information, solid information. Doesn't have all the answers. It's a good jumping off spot for if you want to get a good broad overview of British history. I've always been interested in this. I just like to point out that when I was in school, one of my favorite subjects was to read British history, and specifically British imperial or British colonialism in Africa that would result in things like Zulu Dawn, as well as the Last Stand of China Gordon in Khartoum. Look that one up. Look up China Gordon. That's your homework for today. For this week, China Gordon. And thanks for watching. I will see you next time.